All right, so let's dive in and give you the top 10 ways to actually outsmart narcissists in a way that you can do it without backlash, without them like freaking out on you, without you like ending up going, oh my God, how in the heck am I going to do this and actually come out unscathed? Because you know how they are. They end up like flipping their lid, right? I mean, that narcissistic injury gets triggered and that narcissistic rage comes flying out. They want to punish you. They want to make sure that you never do that again. They want to make sure that you stay under their little like finger, their web of control. I was actually just talking to somebody this morning and they were like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to escape. This person I was talking to this morning is living with it for 30 years. And, you know, just now trying to figure out how to escape plotting and planning and making sure that she does it the right way in outsmarting the narcissist. And that's what I'm going to do. So by the end of this video, you're going to have 10. And I'm going to start with number 10. And we're going to work our way backwards so that you stay all the way to the end to get number 1. Ready? Number 10. Number 10 is don't take the bait. Okay? So they want you to take the bait. That's what they do. I mean, I remember dealing with a family member who was a narcissist, and you know, he would be like, you get into it with him, and he'd be like, yeah, now we're having a conversation. I mean, he wanted you to get into the mud with them. And once you're down in that mud, that's when they feel like now they have you, right? So when they get emotional and they get you to get emotional, then they know that they've got you into that vortex. They're pulling you in. And when they freak out and you freak out and you match their level, you're in it. So when they go here and you stay here and you stay calm, you've outsmarted them because they don't know how to do that. They're trying to pull you in and you haven't taken the bait. So that's number 10. That's one of the ways that you can definitely outsmart them. All right. Number 9. Number 9, and this is especially when you're negotiating with them, because that's my specialty. That's my sweet spot. That's my superpower. That's one of the things I love to do is negotiate. And that is to throw out a decoy. Okay. So when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to negotiate with them, whether it's a business deal, partnership, client, divorce, whatever it is, it could be in your own household. Who knows? Maybe it's a teenager. I mean, I've been coaching somebody who's been dealing with a huge family issue with regard to a probate litigation matter. Throw out a decoy for what it is that you actually want, because if they know what you actually want, then they're going to make it their mission to make sure that that's the thing that you don't actually get. Because why? Because they get supply from jerking you around, remember, right? You know, the end goal for them is not resolution. The end goal for them is supply. They get supply from jerking you around and intimidating you. So you can throw out a decoy and then you can kind of fit in what it is that you actually want down the road, but you're sort of throwing it into a package and you sort of figure out a way to strategically place it in so that you end up getting what you want, but maybe they don't necessarily know that you're ending up getting what you want. See what I mean? All right, number 8. Number 8 is asking for more than what you want. This is, again, in a negotiation. You're going to figure out what it is that you want, and then you're going to ask for way more than that, so much that they end up going, F you, I'm out of here. I mean, that's kind of a strategy for any kind of negotiation, by the way. You are going to ask for more than what you want and kind of back your way down, but never so much that you are going to make the other person so angry. But that's definitely something that you can do. All right, number 7. Number 7 is, I like this one. I like number 7 because It's a way for you to kind of disengage. Number 7 is just observe their behavior to them. So you're looking at them and you're kind of going, I can see that you're angry. You're almost like, you have to pretend almost like you have a microphone in your hand and you're reporting the news. I see that you are upset. I see you being angry. You kind of like look at them and you can almost observe their behavior to them, and it starts to disarm them when you do that, because you're actually validating them. You are actually noticing them and empathizing with them and giving them attention, which is something that they want. They want to be seen. All people like to be seen, heard, and validated. That's just part of being human. And so that actually helps to start to disarm them. And actually, I have a whole lot more on that in my video called Phrases That Disarm Narcissists, which you can check out if you'd like. But, you just kind of observe their behavior to them almost as if you are a third party. And it helps you to disengage as well, by the way. All right, so that's number 7. We are working our way down to number 1. Number 6. Number 6 is you don't defend yourself. When you start getting into, I never said that, I never did that, oh, how can you say that about me? I'm a great mom, I'm a wonderful father, look at all the ways that I contributed to this business, look at all the wonderful things that I've done. If you're really dealing with a true narcissist, the chances of them going, oh my God, you are right. Oh, yes, you have done all of those wonderful things. I am the wrong one. That is not going to happen. You know that's not going to happen. So you're just like wasting your breath in your air. So when they criticize you, you can just look at them and you go, wow, someone got up on the wrong side of the bed or something like that. I mean, I remember having a family member one time who was like really upset about something and came over and like accused me of something like that was like completely preposterous. She was like fighting with her husband, and I wasn't even involved in the situation at all. But then she just like came over to me and went, and you, blah, 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 blah. And I just remember looking at her and I went, traveling with children is so stressful. Like, I just like didn't even allow it to like come on to me at all. And I didn't even take it on. And so when they do that, you just don't defend yourself, and it really will help you so much. You just never try to explain, defend or justify. It really will help you. And that actually brings me into number 5, which number 5 is never explain or justify anything you do. Kind of goes with number 6 was which is never defend. Number 5 is never explain or justify. So you never try to go, oh, well, I did this and I did that. Justify yourself. I mean, it's just, again, it's sort of like defending. You're kind of giving credence to them. You're lending validation to things that they're saying, and that's what they want. You're getting into the mud. You're getting emotional. Again, you're giving them supply by doing that, right? So you don't need to do that. And number 4, we're working our way down to number 1 here, so stick with me. Number 4 is to create leverage, which is all part of my SLAY methodology. L is leverage, S is strategy. Create leverage and then never give it away too early. So you do want to create leverage, which I'm going to give you a little hint. With narcissists, leverage is always going to be tied up in somehow looking at their forms of narcissistic supply, because that's the only thing that ever motivates a narcissist. Like with other humans, they are motivated by lots of different things, but with narcissists, they're really only ever motivated by one thing. Now, it may be different ways that they get narcissistic supply. There's definitely a hierarchy of supply, but they're only ever motivated by supply. So remember, create leverage and then don't give it away too early. So that's number 4. Number 3 is remember that everything that you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. So be really, really careful about that. You want to make sure that you are not like putting yourself in a position where you've given them something that they can use against you, because they will, you get angry, you put something in there, and now that you've got something, right? You don't want to have to be on that defensive, right? You want to be on the offensive. You want to be in a position where you can fight back. And by the way, if you're so ready to fight back, give me a fight back in the comments right now. Fight back. Just remember that everything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. Don't put anything in writing that they can potentially use against you. And number two, we're working our way up to the number 1 way that you can outsmart the narcissist. But number 2 is in that same vein. Remember that everything that you are doing, and it's kind of really closely related to everything you put your hand to, but everything you're doing, they're going to try to use everything you do or say against you. Like, remember, dealing with a narcissist is like getting arrested. They're going to try to goad you. They're going to try to use everything. They're going to try to use everything you do or say against you. They're going to like trick you. They're going to try to catch you, and even watch for ulterior motives. I mean, even if they're being nice, they're love bombing you, they're hoovering you, they're they're doing all these things. Watch for ulterior motives, because, you really can't trust them. Sorry to say. All right, so that's number 2. Ready for number 1? The number 1 way to outsmart a narcissist. Ready? Go no contact. Heal. Don't look in the rearview mirror. Wipe them from the CPU of your life. Say bye-bye. And that's the worst thing that you could possibly do to them, is actually no longer care what they're doing, because you're no longer giving them supply, and you've moved on, and you've healed. Like, that's the one thing that they really don't want, because you're no longer affected by them at all. I'm going to give you 8 ways by the end of this video to become the most powerful person against narcissists. Okay, so how do you outsmart a narcissist? I know what you all are thinking. You can never win against narcissists. I know so many people believe that you can never, ever win against narcissists. Why do you believe that? You believe that because they want you to believe that, because they started making you believe that right from the beginning of the relationship. That was part of your conditioning from the beginning. When they started love bombing you at the beginning of the relationship, that was part of the conditioning. That was part of that charm, part of that whole thing when they started coming on super strong, when they seemed so perfect for you at the beginning. And I'm talking about whether it was a romantic relationship or a business relationship or a friendship or whatever it was. They are chameleons. They know how to seem perfect for you. So when you are outsmarting a narcissist, they first outsmarting you, frankly, at the beginning. That's what they do. So when you have to outsmart them, you're kind of shifting the conditioning at the beginning. One of the things that you can start doing is, number 1, agree with them. You see, they love that sort of game of you disagreeing with them. They love that friction. They want that pushback from you. They get narcissistic supply from that, especially during the discard phase, when they see that you are upset, when they see that they're getting a rise out of you, when they see that you are triggered by them. And so when you start agreeing with them, then there's not that friction. I actually used to know a narcissist. Actually, my husband and I had a narcissist in our family. When somebody would start to get upset, he would actually go, okay, now we're starting to have a conversation. Now we're starting to get going here. And the person would actually be upset. And he would actually think that that was funny or something. He would actually get kind of off on that. But that was sort of how he kind of was humored or something. But that was his way of having a conversation or something. So by just agreeing with them, you outsmart them in a way. Now, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of a caveat on this, obviously. Obviously, you're not going to agree with them on something that could hurt you in the long run, especially if you have a case going or something. You're not going to agree with them if they say, oh, you're an alcoholic, or you are a deadbeat dad, or you didn't pay something that you were supposed to pay and you actually didn't pay it. You're not going to do something that's going to hurt you in writing and say, yep, you're right, I'm an alcoholic. Obviously you're not going to do that. So within reason, you are going to agree with them. And, I do want to give my caveat that I give often as an attorney. I'm going to say to you, remember that anything you put your hand to, any writing is a potential trial exhibit. So be careful what you write, be careful what you post, be careful what you send in an email and a text, in what you write on Facebook, what you write on Instagram or whatever. Any of those things could be a potential trial exhibit. So be very, very careful about that. But, agree with them is number one. That is something that you could do to outsmart a narcissist. Number two thing that you could do to outsmart a narcissist is ask them their opinion on things, especially if you are in negotiations, because they love to hear themselves pontificate. They love to hear themselves talk. They love to hear themselves go on and on about things. And they will tell you their opinions on things, and they will tell you what they're thinking about things. There was a lawyer that I used to litigate against, and he would often tell me his opinion on things. He would often tell me what he was going to be doing as far as his case. He would tell me where he was going to be going, what he was going to be thinking, because he thought so highly of himself. And then I would know what direction he was going to be going on his particular case because he thought so highly of himself. I actually used to be in front of a judge who would think so highly of himself that we used to know that all we would have to do was get him talking, and he would talk so much that he would often change his ruling because he would talk so much sometimes, or he would talk himself into reversible error because he would talk so much. So asking their opinions on things sometimes will help you. They also are liars. So sometimes if you get them talking so much, you can actually get them to talk so much that you can get them to give you some leverage, especially if you can engage them into talking in writing. Get them talking in text messages, get them engaged in an email conversation, get them to lie, get them to admit things or whatever, because they will lie. So ask them their opinions on things and they will often tell you. That's number two. Number three thing that you can do to outsmart a narcissist is don't take their bait. Oh, this is extremely difficult, but it is something that I often would know instinctively to do, even when I was dealing with two covert narcissists at the same time, not even knowing that they were covert narcissists. And even if you're dealing with a grandiose narcissist or an overt narcissist or a malignant narcissist, they will often give you bait. And if the more that you can not take their bait, the more you will outsmart that narcissist. So just don't take their bait. And this will lead me to number 4 thing that you can do to outsmart a narcissist, which is don't allow them to trigger you, because the more they trigger you, the more you will allow yourself to do things that will potentially get you in hot water. Once you are triggered, then they will use your reaction against you. Then they go, look at that person, they're so emotional, or look at that person, they're the crazy one. And they sit over there looking all calm, all cool, all collected. And meanwhile, they caused you to be the crazy one. They caused you to act insane. I've seen it over and over again. They give you bait. They try to trigger you. They make you crazy. They use gaslighting, word salad. They know what your Achilles heel is. They know how to get under your skin. And then you react. And then they go, oh, look, they're crazy. And so you have to have that willpower not to react. And that's why we tell you, keep your interactions brief, have boundaries, all those sorts of things, because those are the things that you can do to outsmart that narcissist. Don't take the bait. Don't allow them to trigger you. Number 5 thing that you can do to outsmart the narcissist is give them rope to hang themselves. A lot of people don't want to do this. This is especially effective if you are in a litigation setting and potentially you're working on maybe some sort of pre-litigation or maybe some sort of temporary orders or something like that. And maybe you want to give them an opportunity to have some sort of pre-agreement or something like that. Give them opportunities to show that they're not going to live up to their agreements, because they often don't. And I will tell you that a lot of times narcissists are inherently lazy. A lot of times they really don't want what they say they want. A lot of times they just pontificate and boast around that they say they want this or that, but they really don't want to have to live up to their obligations. They usually don't have a whole lot of integrity. And so give them the rope to hang themselves. Let them show that they're not going to live up to their obligations, because then you can use that against them. Okay, so don't be afraid to give them some rope to hang themselves, because you will be able to use that against them. So that's number 5. Number 6 thing that you can do to outsmart the narcissist is hold on to your leverage until you are ready to use it. So many people will want to show them right away, look at this thing that I have, look at this thing that I have against you. But when you show them right away, then you are showing them all your cards. You don't want to do that. You want to build an invisible fence around them and then spring it on them when you are ready. So I actually have a whole video on this, which you're definitely going to want to check out. It's called Take Down the Narcissist Using This Magic Bullet, which is leverage. You're definitely going to want to check that out. So just really, really be careful about that. You know, hold on to your leverage until you're really, really ready to use it. Be careful about that. You know, hold your cards close to the vest. This is why you want to use my SLAY strategy. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. build your strategy, have your vision, have your goals, create your plan, then use your leverage, anticipating what the narcissist is going to do and being 2 steps ahead of them, focusing on you, your case, your position. Yes, you need a good lawyer, but I'm telling you, 99% of lawyers don't understand narcissism. Lawyers are really only there to apply the law. You've got the good leverage in your hands. You need to build the leverage. You can turn the leverage over to your lawyer, but you need to help build the leverage. So take down the narcissist using that magic bullet leverage. Hold on to your leverage until you're ready to use it. So that's number 6 way that you can outsmart that narcissist. So number 7 is spring it on them. You spring it on them when you're ready to use it. That's when you are ready to expose the narcissist using that leverage that you're going to use to outsmart that narcissist. So that's number 7 way to outsmart that narcissist, is spring it on them only after you've sort of built that invisible fence around them. Okay, so number 6 way to outsmart the narcissist is hold on to your leverage until you're ready to use it. And then number 7 way to outsmart the narcissist is spring it on them only when you're ready. Okay. So you do not use that leverage until you are absolutely ready to use it. Got it? Okay. And I teach you how to know when you're ready to use it in the Slate program. And in the Slate program, I have more than 40 examples of leverage. And I have actually templates and all that good stuff for you. And then number eight way to outsmart that narcissist is to go no contact and never look back. And that is the best way that you can outsmart that narcissist. You wipe them from the CPU of your life, like as if they never, ever existed. That is the absolute best way, because that's what they definitely never, ever want. But that is the best thing for you. Then you can really break free and create the new life for yourself. And I'm telling you, when that happens, the sky is bluer, the grass is greener, the air smells cleaner. That is the best way for you. And the fear absolutely disappears. And I'm telling you, once you've been able to conquer the narcissist, you can do anything. You know, I've had clients tell me, like, I feel like a rock. I feel like I can do anything. I feel like anything can come at me. There's like nothing I can't conquer at this point. So what I want you to do right now is put in the comments, I can do this, because you can do this. Seriously, the only thing that you can't do is give up, because that is what the narcissist wants. Okay. They want you to give in. They want you to give up. They want you to believe that they're stronger than you, but they're absolutely not. They are absolutely not stronger than you. You are actually the stronger one. They went after you not because you had so little value. They went after you because you had so much value. They're not attaching themselves to somebody who has like no value and no supply whatsoever. What would be the point of that? Think about it. They attached themselves to you because you had so much value, right? So if you are dealing with that pesky, awful, toxic narcissist, and you are just at your wit's end and you're trying to figure out how to outsmart them, here are 5 secrets to outsmarting them. Number 1, agree with them. And I know what you're saying. What? Agree with them? They're crazy. They're pathological liars. They say anything they want to. They accuse me of stuff that's not true. I get it. I do. I've dealt with them. I've represented them. I've had them on the other side of my cases. Had to deal with them in my own life. So, I mean, nobody's immune. Narcissists are everywhere, right? But I'm talking about ways that you can bring them down. That, you know, because remember that a narcissist game is to manipulate you. I mean, you think it's to beat you, but it really isn't. Beating you isn't the outcome. There's really no outcome. They don't really have a goal or an outcome. Their outcome is just manipulating you, messing with you, making themselves look as good as possible. And the only way that they can make themselves look good is by putting you down. And so if you steal their thunder, if you take their ammunition away, then they don't know what to do with that. So you just say, if they say to you, you're always late, just say, you know what, you're right, I'm always late. And they're gonna, bristle at that at first. Oh, you're being, you're talking down to me, condescending, whatever. They can say whatever you want. Just say, no, I'm always late. That's what you say. I'm always late. And you're not saying it in a. Be careful not to say it in a way that's sarcastic, or where they can tell that they're getting to you, because the whole purpose of this is to just show them that you're not affected, that you're completely nonplussed by what they're saying and how they're saying it. That's their perspective. You're always late, whatever. And they'll be thrown off their game with that. Okay. Now, the one little caveat I will say is, if you're going to court with a narcissist, you definitely don't want to say this like in a deposition or in court or something like that. I mean, this is where you're just having a conversation with this other person, and you're just coming up with ways to outsmart them and kind of beat them at their own game. So by them trying to manipulate you by getting a rise out of you, and you just saying you're right, it stuns them. They're not quite sure what to do with that. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is the ear method. This comes from Bill Eddy, who is an author, an attorney, and a psychologist, and he's written books like Splitting and Biff and The 5 Types of People That'll Ruin Your Life. And he says you use ear statements. And this is especially true if you've got somebody who's just completely out of control and just losing their mind on you. You show empathy, attention, and respect. Ear, EAR. And I know what you're thinking. You don't want to show them empathy, attention, or respect because you don't empathize with them. You don't want to give them attention, and you certainly don't respect them. I get it. This is to outsmart the narcissist, remember? So, if you act the way the narcissist expects you to act, then they know they have you. If you act in a way that they don't expect you to act, just like in number one, where we said just agree with them, this is where you're giving them a little bit of attention. And remember, that's what the narcissist wants. They want attention. So you're just giving them just enough to say, I see that you're upset. It must be difficult to travel, or whatever it is that you want to say to them, but you're just saying it without emotion. Just show them a little bit of empathy, attention, and respect. And if you're dealing with a narcissist in your life, just put yes in the comments. Okay, number 3 thing you can do is figure out leverage against them. Even if you're not negotiating with them in a formal sense, figuring out a way that you can gather around them and find their inconsistencies and figure out what it is that they're saying that they're lying about, catch them in their lies. Now, what I want you to do when you're doing this, though, is not show them right away what you've got, because if you're showing it to them real time, then they're constantly out gaming you, which they're very good at. I mean, narcissists are master manipulators, especially covert narcissists. Covert narcissists are great at looking really, really wonderful to 99% of the world. I know, I've had to deal with them myself. And if you want to know more about covert narcissists, make sure that you check out my video on covert narcissism in relationships, and I will definitely drop a link to that video below. But in the meantime, while you're gathering leverage and you're gathering motivation for them to want to have a conversation with you or do what you want them to do, you're just gathering, and you're waiting to use that leverage at a time that is most opportune for you. And that the time that you're going to use that is when you have them fully surrounded and there's no, it's like airtight. It's like soldiers that are surrounding a city or something like that. There's no escaping, because that's when they go crazy and their true colors really show through, which again is more leverage that you'll be able to potentially use down the road. Okay, number 4 is throw them off the scent. So what I mean by this is don't show a narcissist what you really want, because the minute you tell them what it is that you definitely don't want or you definitely do want, then that's the thing that they're going to do whatever they can to make sure you don't get it. Because if you're trying to outsmart a narcissist here, you don't show your hand, you don't show what it is that you want, you throw them off the scent. You act like nonchalant about the thing that you really want the most, and then the thing that you don't care about, you act like that's the most important thing ever. And especially if you're negotiating with a narcissist, this is very, very critical. I have a video on how to negotiate with a narcissist, and I will drop a link to that below. Check that out if you're trying to negotiate with a narcissist. But regardless if you're trying to negotiate or not, you're still in a negotiation if you're having to deal with this narcissist. So don't show them what it is that means the most to you, because that's what they will then target. Because then in the end, if you end up with what you want, who really cares if they knew that that was what you want? And if they think that you didn't get what you wanted, act like, oh my gosh, this was just horrible or whatever. And then, when you go back to your house or you go back to your room or whatever, you can just be like Dr. Evil and squeal and bah, ha, 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 and you got what you wanted. So who really cares if he or she knew that you got what you wanted? Okay. And number 5 has nothing to do with the narcissist at all. It has everything to do with you. And in my book, Negotiate Like You Matter, and in my programs, those of you who've worked with me or those of you who've read my book, that the most important thing is your internal feeling of value. So you focus on your own power, you focus on your own value and your own internal feeling of value. Remember that narcissists have no internal feeling of value. They get all their feeling of any sort of value from the external. And the more you can just be that oak tree and that you can just stand in your power, the less the narcissist will get to you. And that is really the best way to outsmart that narcissist. I definitely would try to get that narcissist out of your world if you possibly can. I always say, show them the door to your world, have a nice life. But obviously, if you're co-parenting with a narcissist and, you're still going to have them in your world, do something like parallel parenting, something where you don't have to deal with them on a regular basis. Okay, so you're dealing with a narcissist and you're like, what in the heck do I do? Because you constantly feel like maybe you're like a turtle on your back and they've got their foot on the front on your belly, right? Because why? Because narcissists are street fighters. That's what they are. They are if they were in a ring with you, they would be pulling your hair, biting you, pinching you, kicking you in the groin. That's what they do. There's no bar that's too low, except the one that maybe they think might expose them or something like that. But a lot of times they mistake even like going too far for that, people will respect them more in some way or whatever. So that's the problem that you're dealing with here. I mean, a lot of times you are under the mistaken impression that you're both looking for a resolution and you're thinking in your mind, because you're the reasonable person over there, what is it that they want? Let me just give it to them so I can be out of this thing, or, or we can walk away and I can have peace in my life, or maybe they won't be mad at me, or maybe I won't unleash the fire in them. If I hang back, if I don't ruffle feathers, then, it'll be better for me. But how's that going for you? Let me just ask you that question. How is that going for you? Probably not so good. You're probably still in hell. They're probably still doing things to try to make you miserable, that are actually making you miserable, that are causing drama, trauma, and chaos, right? So even hanging back and trying not to ruffle feathers, that ain't working. Okay, so there is a way that you can do this. You can fight back. You can do it in a way that's super strategic, but you have to be really, really smart about it. Okay, because here's the thing, they're always trying to trigger you. They're always trying to goad you. And they're expecting that by saying the right things, pushing the right buttons, jamming sticks into your weaknesses, that you're going to respond. And once you respond, then now we've got it going here, because now they're getting narcissistic supply from that response. And that's what they're addicted to. They're addicted to narcissistic supply. And if they're not going to get it from you in the form of your adulation and you doing things for them or making them look good in some way, or, there's some other value that they're getting out of the situation, then they're going to get it. They're going to get it from you in a different way. And how that's going to look is intimidating you, making you scared, controlling you, goading you, degrading you, debasing you, all of those things. And they get supply from that as well. And remember that they are supply whores. I mean, they're going to get it however they can get it. And if there's any little bit to get out of it, like, scraping the bottom of the barrel, they're still going to be there looking for it, whoring for it. I mean, they'll dumpster dive for it, no matter how bad they need, it gets. They're going to be there trying to get that supply out of you as long as there's something to be had. And they trigger you in all different sorts of ways, including things that they say to you. And if you want to know more about narcissists' favorite sayings, definitely check out my video on that. But they expect you to be the victim. They expect you to be a certain way because they've probably conditioned you for a while. I mean, unless it's a business situation, then they can kind of smell that blood too if you are hesitant in how you interact with them. And the longer that they see that you're a victim, or feel it or smell it or sense it in any way, the more they will continue to come back and try to target every single weakness that you have. It really will never end. It's like Barney, that this is the song that never ends, because as long as there's something to be had, they're going to be there. So, and that's why it seems like you can never get away from them. That's why the fight never ends. So how you outsmart them is not fighting back with exactly what they do, coming out and trying to one-up them on degrading or debasing, or one-up them on, slinging mud. That just gives them supply. That's not the way to outsmart them. That's the way to give them exactly what it is that they want. You're never going to get anywhere with that, ever, ever, ever. So it's finding those ways to build that invisible fence around them to eventually motivate and squeeze them, using strategy, using leverage, anticipating what they're going to do, focusing on you and your position. That's my SLAY methodology. And that's what works. That's what's proven. So if you don't want to continue to give them narcissistic supply, then you got to figure out a way to outsmart them. So how do you outsmart them? So number one is stop feeling like you need to respond to every single thing they say or do. A lot of times you find yourself, you get these long text messages or these long emails, or they just say things to you, and you feel like you need to go through and categorically respond to every single thing. Oh, you think I'm a horrible mother? Well, I just picked Johnny up from school today and I helped him with his homework and I took him to baseball and then I fed him dinner. Like, how does that make me a horrible mother? But that's exactly what they want, because now they have you. Now there you are, upset, feeling defensive, right? So how you can stop yourself, especially if you get long texts or long emails or those, filled with vitriol things, I want you to learn how to strategically respond and tactically respond. All you have to do is look through the email or look through the text and find the one thing that you need to respond to, like, what time are we meeting on Wednesday or whatever it is, and respond to that. And that's the only thing you need to respond to. As to the rest of it, you can just say, I'm in receipt of your correspondence and I deny your allegations. That's all you need to say. You don't need to go through every single one and prove yourself, because you know what? You never will. It's not like you're going to get them to go, oh, geez, you're right. You are a wonderful mother. I mean, it's not going to happen that way. They're never going to go, oh yeah, you're not going to convince them. So where are you going with it? Think about what your end goal is. If it's to try to convince them, you might as well go hit your head against the brick wall. Ain't going to happen. But remember that every text and every writing and anything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. So you can just respond strategically, respond to the things that you need to respond to, and that's it. So that's number one. Number two is disengage emotionally. The more emotion that they can trigger in you, the more they can goad you into being upset or angry or sad, or that gives them supply. So the more you can pull back and start to disengage emotionally and start almost looking at the situation as if you're a bystander who's reporting the news, the more you are now starting to outsmart them, the less supply they are getting from you. From the situation. All right. Does this make sense? If this makes sense, I want to see an outsmart them in the comments right now. Just go below and write outsmart them, because that is what you are doing. All right. So number three is use decoys to throw them off the scent of what you really want, especially in negotiations, because whatever it is that you really want, if they sense that, then that will become their personal mission to make sure that you don't get it. Okay. So, maybe act like you don't care about certain things that you really care about, or that you care about certain things that you wouldn't matter to you as much if you got in the negotiations. And that way, at the end of the day, when you're walking away, if they think that they got you in some way, now they're none the wiser and you actually were able to outsmart them. Remember, you're not going to win by like showing them that you've won, because as long as they think that, then they're going to keep going. So outsmarting them is you winning and they think that they got something out of the situation. And the last one is creating leverage. And I've talked about this a lot of times. Make sure that when you're creating leverage, you're creating leverage within the context of an overall strategy. It's really, really important. You have to decide when you're going to use it, how you're going to use it, where you're going to use it, all those things. But you're basically, as I said, building that invisible fence, and you are ethically manipulating the manipulator by threatening a source of supply that means more to them to keep than the supply that they get from making you miserable. So if you're dealing with a narcissist, be it a covert narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, or a malignant narcissist, they engage in all kinds of behaviors, even while you are just in a relationship with them. They're gaslighting you, they're lying to you, they're manipulating you, perhaps even being abusive. More than likely, they're being abusive. Some are sneakier at it than others. Covert narcissists in particular are very sneaky at it. And so if you are dealing with a covert narcissist, I have several videos on covert narcissists, including why covert narcissists are dangerous and the covert passive aggressive narcissist. And you're going to want to check out those videos for sure if you're dealing with covert narcissists. But whatever kind of narcissist you're dealing with, they are being their narcissist selves the entire time that you're in a relationship with them. So there are three phases to a narcissistic relationship. It's love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. And remember that the phases of the relationship don't actually happen in a linear fashion. They happen at the same time sometimes. They can be devaluing you while they're love bombing you. And in fact, there was a study done by a psychologist with monkeys that showed that if monkeys were given a reward for doing something good every single time, nothing happened in their brain. But if they were only given a reward intermittently, variably, where the monkeys couldn't predict when they were going to get this reward, the dopamine levels in their brain actually rose to the level of someone on cocaine. And that's what happens with a relationship with narcissists. They go back and forth. The narcissists go back and forth between love bombing and devaluing, and love bombing and devaluing. And so you are left with almost being addicted to, in a physiological way, to wanting their praise, to wanting that love bomb, because they start out so charming and they really try to set themselves up to be the perfect person for you and hold out all these things that they're going to do for you, or even do things for you right at that time. I mean, if you ever watched the Dirty John miniseries, you recall that guy was just setting himself to be up to be perfect for this successful single businesswoman. He was getting her dry cleaning and making smoothies for her in the morning and all these things at the same time that he was isolating her from her family and turning people against her. So, they go through these phases of the relationship. So what happens when you are doing battle with a narcissist is they just become that same person, but on steroids. So it's so much worse. They turn up the heat because, unfortunately for narcissists, you're either for them or you're against them. They need an endless amount of supply. And if you are cutting off that supply to them, then they just see you as the enemy. And for those of you who watch my videos on a regular basis, you know that I've had to work 2 covert narcissists out of my life, and it was not an easy thing. It wasn't husbands, but it was people that were close to me and close enough to do serious damage and cause lots and lots of trauma. And, I'm telling you that if it can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. Narcissists have a symbiotic relationship with empaths, and narcissists see that empaths have the qualities that they want, and empaths, we just think that we can love everybody back to health, and that we have enough love to give, and it just ends up being this black hole. And so they literally, they're often called energy vampires or leeches or parasites or whatever, but they literally suck the life out of you. And it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts. And so when you go to do battle with a narcissist, they're literally turning up the heat because now you're the enemy. Now you no longer have any value for them. So there's no, like, a reasonable person, those of us who are in reasonable land, we think, oh, we can just walk away and wish each other well, and we'll come up with an agreement that's reasonable. And hey, the law provides for certain things, and depending on what kind of battle you're doing with a narcissist. But you can't, that's not how it goes with a narcissist. So if you're getting ready to do battle, or you're in the trenches of doing battle with a narcissist, there are a few things that you can do to beat them at their own game and preserve your own sanity along the way. The first thing is, don't allow them to disrespect you. When you allow them to disrespect you, you're basically giving them permission to do that. And they know how to push your buttons, let me tell you. I mean, especially if you've been in a long-term relationship with this person, they've studied you, they know exactly what your weaknesses are, and so that's where they're going to go. They're going right there to to try to make you look as bad as possible. Everything you say or do is going to be turned against you, used against you, twisted, manipulated. So what you're going to have to do is just maintain your own level of dignity, maintain your own level of respect, and demand respect from them. If they are screaming, yelling, trying to talk to you in a way that's overly emotional, and they're not in control, they want you to be out of control too, because they get supply, they get narcissistic supply by seeing you squirm. So by just maintaining that, hey, we're not going to have this conversation. You're not being respectful to me. This is not productive. We'll have this conversation when you can be respectful to me. Same thing if they are lighting you up in text messages or lighting you up in emails, and saying all sorts of disrespectful things. You can just simply respond and say, I disagree with what you're saying. Please do not speak to me that way. It is disrespectful. And then respond to the parts of it that you might have to respond to, like, what time are you picking up the kids or something like that. But other than that, you're not going to get into the trenches with them and sling that same sort of mud. You're going to demand respect from them, and you're going to condition them that this is how it's going to go. If they want you to interact with them, they're going to have to respect you. And it's going to drive them insane when you do that. Believe me. Okay, the next thing that you can do is document, document, document. And we cannot say this enough, those of us who are in this field and professionals in this area. You just never know what's going to end up being your leverage. And when you're dealing with narcissists, you have to have a super strong strategy, and you have to be able to create leverage. And, I often hear people ask me, what is leverage? What does that look like? And leverage can be a smoking gun, like the one thing that for sure the narcissist doesn't want anyone to know. Or it could be something like that the narcissist is more motivated to resolve your differences than you are. Or it can be an accumulation of things. It can be, 15 different text messages that show that they're a liar. Or and you create an exhibit that shows that. It could be that they didn't show up for picking up the kids on time 20 times in a row, or they changed the schedule every single time that they were supposed to take the kids or whatever. But, it could be any accumulation of those things. And so it's really, really important to do that documentation, even if it seems mundane. Just keep the app open on your phone, the Notes app, or there's apps where you can actually pay, to have a documentation feature or whatever. But basically, you just don't really know what's going to be the pattern that you're going to be able to bring out, or what's going to be that leverage. And, for sure, the leverage is always going to be around what is their biggest motivation, which is, the one thing they don't want to come out. It's going to be around their ego, because the thing about narcissists is, they're just always in this mode of self-preservation. They're actually very easy to figure out. And narcissists are the most afraid, most scared little personalities on the planet. They have fragile egos because they have no sense of inner value. All of their value comes from the external. So when you are looking at your documentation and figuring out what your leverage is, you're going to want to think about what is their biggest motivation. What is it that they really don't want brought out? And what is it that's going to make them look bad? Because narcissists do not want to look bad, especially in front of people that they really respect. So if somebody is involved that they really respect, such as a mediator or other lawyers or the judge, especially the judge, they're not going to want to look bad. So document everything, okay? You never know when you're going to need it.
If this is all sounding really good to you so far and you are so ready to start doing the things that I'm telling you to do, give me an amen in the comments. Okay, the third thing that you can do is figure out what kind of narcissist you're dealing with and understand what behaviors each one engages in. So some of it is similar. All narcissists engage in certain types of behaviors like gaslighting and manipulation, but they do it in subtly different ways depending on the type of narcissist that you're dealing with, whether it's covert, malignant, or grandiose. And you will want to brush up on the different types of narcissists so that you can figure out what kind you're dealing with and then find out what behaviors they engage in. And once you do that, then you will expect it. You're going to go, oh, there's that person being that covert narky self. That's what they do. And you won't take it as personally because you'll just understand that that's the way they act. Okay, so the third thing you can do is figure out what kind of narcissist you're dealing with, brush up on the types of behaviors associated with each narcissist, and then expect them to act like themselves. They don't change. Narcissists do not change. They can pretend like they know, they're very good at pretending. They do know what good behavior looks like. That's how they were able to rope you in the first place, and that's how they parade around the world and get people to think that they're so great. Especially covert narcissists are really, really good at that. But you're going to want to figure out what kind you're dealing with and then not be surprised when they just act like themselves. The fourth thing is when you are getting ready to ask for something from the narcissist, you're going to want to ask for way more than what you actually want. The narcissist is going to want to feel like they beat you, like they got to you because they get supply from that. Their egos won't allow you to win, at least on paper. So if you are ready to just give them a certain amount, give away a certain amount that you control, that you decide ahead of time, I'm going to be willing to take this much, or I'll be willing to give up this thing, but act like it's like the one thing you definitely don't want to give up. Because if there's something that's super important to you, then that's the one thing that they're going to want to make sure that you don't get. So you're kind of playing a game here, and I call it ethically manipulating the manipulator. But basically, you're going to want to give them certain things that you kind of decide ahead of time that you were willing to give, and then work back to what you actually want. And then when you get there, you have to act like, oh my God, I can't believe I had to give up so much, and this is just awful, and oh, you really took advantage of me and whatever. But you can just go home and smile and pour your champagne or whatever and do it in the privacy of your own home after you've won the things that you wanted. And number 5, the last one is, I take it from like this old commercial, never let them see you sweat, but really you never want to let them see you sweat, cry, get emotional, lose control. Then they get supply from that. If you need to, cry in the bathroom and then come back out, splash water on your face. If you wear makeup and you're a female, whatever, put makeup back on. If you're a guy, just splash water in your face, comb your hair, whatever you need to do to just maintain control and never let them see that they are getting under your skin. Because as soon as they see that, then they know they have you. If you know you're going to have to interact with them, and let's say it's a school meeting or it's a mediation or something like that, don't get there too early, get there on time. Don't give them opportunities to grab you and try to manipulate you, because that's when they'll start to get under your skin again. Remember what I said at the beginning, these narcissists, they know how to push your buttons. So never let them see you sweat.
So I'm going to give you 5 ways to make sure that you beat a narcissist in court. So you're going to want to make sure you stay till the end. You're going to want to make sure that you save this video. You're going to want to make sure you share it out. You're going to want to make sure that you go ahead and watch it over and over again, because I'm going to give you all the ways to make sure that you beat a narcissist in court. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to remember the acronym, knock them dead. All right. So DEADD. So 2 D's, but DEADD, knock them dead. So the first D stands for document everything. And I mean everything. You know, you're going to want to journal everything. You're going to want to document everything. In my Slay program, I actually have 12 different things that you're going to want to be documenting, but you're going to want to document everything with regard to finances, to your children, if you have children, anything that they do that seems out of the ordinary. I know it's a pain, but you know, if you have a notes app or something, just note it, because you're not going to remember. But you know, even if it's crazy, oh, I don't know if I should write that down, but you know, you just never know. And there's many different ways that these things come into play. So you will want to make sure that you document everything, whether it's a business case or a family law case, or it's against a business partner. Maybe it's a case against an employer or something like that. It always is something that you're going to need to be doing, is documenting. Whether it's a timeline form, you end up needing it for the statutes to prove different elements of a statute. You definitely need documentation. I also have a podcast where I ended up interviewing one of the people who use my Slay for Biz program, Sharon Scott. I highly recommend that you check that out, because she talked about how she used my program and it really helped her a lot. So definitely document everything. The next thing is the E, emotions. Keep them in check. You're definitely going to want to keep your emotions in check. There's so many different reasons that you want to keep your emotions in check. I mean, for one thing is that they want to trigger you constantly. They love to see you squirm, so they get supply from it. And you really don't want to give them narcissistic supply, obviously, because that's no fun. I mean, they just get the satisfaction of seeing you go crazy, right? I mean, why do you want to do that? But then the next thing is that they use your reaction against you. They go, look, there's the crazy one. There's the one that's the problem. And they will use that against you in a number of ways. They use the emails against you, the texts against you. They may even be videotaping against you. They use the witnesses against you, whatever it is. So definitely keep your emotions in check. They use it for custody, so many different things. So definitely E, keep your emotions in check. And it doesn't help you when you're negotiating either, if you're all over the place when it comes to settlements, because then you end up settling for things that you regret 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road. You're like, I didn't want to settle for that. Because a lot of times you're like, oh, I just ended up settling for that because I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted it to be over with. Or maybe you were just feeling pressured. You know, really try to keep your emotions in check. And by the way, if you're really, really struggling with that, because a lot of times when you've been dealing with a narcissist for a long period of time, you are in a trauma state, especially PTSD sometimes. I do have a partnership with BetterHelp. You can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. I do receive commissions on that. It doesn't cost you anymore. We have a partnership with them because I wanted to have a partnership with a service that we could trust, that we could recommend. If you are struggling, go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung so that you can get the help and support that you need if you're having trouble with your emotions and you're having trouble with trauma. So that's the E. The next one is always wear the white hat. That's the A. Always wear the white hat. And what do I mean by that? I mean by that in that you want to be the one, if you end up in front of the judge, which that's what this is about, you want to be the one where the judge is like, hey, this is the person that obviously is the good one. Let the narcissist be the one who's badly behaving. A lot of times it's so easy to fall into, hey, they're behaving badly. They're doing things wrong. They did it too. I can do it too. What happens though is then you have a situation where the judge is just like seeing like two kids that are fighting. So for those of you who are out there watching who have children and you have more than one, what happens is they just are like, oh, both of you just stop it. You know, they don't see that, oh, well, they started it or they're worse. They just see two people who just are fighting. So you want to be the one who's consistently not being in the mud with the other one. Because if you are the one who's what I call always wearing the white hat, who's not engaging, who didn't respond, who didn't get into it, and the other one is always the one who's constantly the badly behaved one, then it makes it really, really obvious who is the bad one. And it's kind of hand in hand with keeping your emotions in check, but it's even one step much, much further than that. You really, really want to be the one who's just always behaving, always doing the right thing. So just kind of imagine that the judge is sort of walking around with you and watching every single thing that you're doing. Always wear the white hat. That's the A. All right. So the next one is don't go anywhere alone. That's the D, the first D in Knock 'em Dead. And we're going through all the elements of what to do to beat a narcissist in court. So, you know, this is because they're going to say you followed them, you did this, you did that. They lie all the time. So they're constantly going to be saying that you were menacing, that you were threatening, that you did this with the kids, or that you touched somebody inappropriately, or whatever it is that they make up constantly. And then you end up having to defend against these ridiculous claims. So you want to make sure that you have people around as much as you possibly can. If you have children, for example, have your exchanges for custody at daycares, at schools, you know, at shopping plazas or places where people are around, because you just don't want situations where they can make things up about what's going on. And in that same vein, by the way, you're going to want to make sure that even depositions are videotaped if possible. And I have actually a whole video on how to beat a narcissist in mediation. I talk about that in there, and you should definitely check out that video as well, because a lot of you who are trying to beat a narcissist in court are also mediating with a narcissist, and you should definitely check out that video as well. And I also do have a whole video where I interviewed Judge Lynn Toller. You guys should definitely check out that video too. She was the judge on divorce court for 17 years, and her video interview was very, very highly fascinating. So definitely check that out too. And if you guys are so ready to knock them dead, put knock them dead in the comments, because I'm so ready to help you knock them dead. And if you've been following along with how to beat a narcissist in court, and you've been following along with my acronym, you know there's one more D. The last D is decoys. It stands for decoys. And what I mean by decoys is you really do not want to give them your best offer, or give them any of your best evidence, or show them any of your cards, or show them any of your hands until you're ready to unveil it in court, or when you're ready. I mean, a lot of times while you're standing on the courthouse steps, or even at lunch during the trial, they want to settle, they're ready to have settlement talks, or even maybe the eve before trial or a couple of days before, they're ready to have some settlement talks at that point or something. And you might be ready at that point as well, but you've got to have your strategy, your leverage, have anticipated, your focus on you, your position, that being on the offensive, my whole slay methodology. At that point, you do not give them your best offer. You do not show your best evidence. You decoy the whole thing until you are so ready to go. Basically, the way I look at it is you're building an invisible fence around them until you turn on the lights and they realize, oh my God, I'm totally pinned in. At that point, they have no choice but to resolve the issue with you or resolve the issues with you. So you're appearing weak, you're feigning ignorance, you know, oh, I don't know, I have no idea. Let them think that they're winning. Let them go all crazy on you. Allow them to go off. A lot of times that's good for you. It's hard, I know, because you don't want them to get away with anything a lot of times during the case. But sometimes if you have an ongoing case, it's good to let them screw up, because those little battles that show that they're screwing up help you to demonstrate to the judge who they actually are. So let them do that, you know, because then you can show patterns that they aren't doing what they're supposed to do, show patterns that they're liars, show patterns that they are bad parents or terrible with money or whatever it is that you need to show. It actually ends up helping you in the end, or that they have anger issues or whatever it is. So that definitely helps you. Sometimes it's really, really good to feign that you're weak, feign that you're ignorant. A lot of times, by the way, you can pretend like there's a particular thing that you really, really want, and it's not the thing that you really, really want, because then, you know, they go after that, you know, because they're going to go after the thing that they think that you really, really want, right? So let them go after that particular thing. Right?
Now, let's talk about what are the signs that you've actually beat that narcissist. It's not what you think. It's not them laying on the floor, writhing in pain and whatever, because yes, you might see that. Narcissists do sometimes collapse. And if you want to know more about what happens when a narcissist collapses, definitely check out my video on what happens at the collapse of a narcissist. It's quite a sight to see, not the greatest thing to see. But the thing is that it doesn't change who they are, and who they are is a person that needs an endless amount of narcissistic supply. It's sort of like, you know, animals out on the terrain, or, you know, in the Serengeti in Africa. I mean, they're just constantly hunting for food, and their food is narcissistic supply. So they need that. That's their oxygen. That's what they live on. They need an endless amount. You're feeding a black hole. It continues to go into this black hole. You never get anything out of that deposit. But the supply is anything that feeds their ego. I mean, it can be positive things, it can be negative things, but mostly they get supply from devaluing, entitlement, playing the victim, you know, intimidating you, fear tactics. All of that stuff is a way to get themselves an endless amount of narcissistic supply. So when the signs that you've beat the narcissist are that, you know, are not going to be that the narcissist is collapsed on the floor and groveling to you. It just, you know, they can't change their spot. So the signs that you have actually beat the narcissist is, number one, acceptance. Acceptance of who they are, acceptance of what happened, it being okay with it, starting to see them for who they really are. And how do you do that? you start learning as much about narcissism as you possibly can, which is why you're here and why the universe brought you to my videos and to my content and brought you to me and me to you, so that you could learn about that and start accepting them. And don't beat yourself up over it. I mean, don't regret the fact that this person came into your life. People come into your lives for reasons, and a lesson was needed to be learned. And you know what I say all the time is, you know, if you're in that situation, you just say, okay, God, universe, higher power, whatever it is that you believe in, or even if you don't believe in anything, you just go, what do I need to learn from this situation so I can get out of it and it won't happen to me again? Because if you don't learn the lesson, then, you know, another narcissist is lurking around the corner, coming back into your life, and you know, you won't have recognized the signs. So just learn about it, accept it, understand that it's okay that it happened. And you know, I dealt with a couple of narcissists in my own life, and even though I was already a master level skilled negotiator, and I had written books on it, and I had spoken about it, and I was the keynote speaker for the ABA, the American Bar Association, on negotiation, I really hadn't figured out how to put the pieces together of what narcissism is and how to negotiate with narcissists in a way that you can actually get what you want and start making progress on that. If you don't know how to deal with narcissists in a negotiation setting, even if you have the greatest lawyer on the planet, you're still going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars and many years into it and feel like you're nowhere, because narcissists are not on the same plane that you are when you're dealing with them in a negotiation setting. They are looking to continue to get their narcissistic supply by making your life miserable, and you are going, well, how do we resolve our issues in a way that's reasonable? What's the law? And, you know, and how can we, you know, make this as fair for each of us and have something that we can both live with so we can walk away and go our separate ways. That's not how it goes with narcissists. So when you can start to accept that and understand that, and don't get upset and don't take the bait when they are who they are, that will be a huge way that you actually start to beat that narcissist. The second way that you know that you've beat the narcissist is that when they act the way that they do, you're just observing it, and maybe you actually even think it's funny, you know? So if they come back and they start their gaslighting, they're hoovering, they're doing all the things that they're doing, and you go, okay, there you are, being your narky self, I get it. You know, I've had clients who've called me and say, can you believe he did this? Can you believe she did that? And I say to them, yes, I can. What I can't believe is that you can't believe it. You've been telling me for years now how they act. So when you start to go, oh, I can believe it, you know, actually be surprised if they act like a normal person, you know, but that's when you've really beat the narcissist. When you see they're hoovering, you just start to go, you know what, there they go. And maybe you even can laugh at it sometimes, you know, and you can even start using phrases like, you know, I understand that that's what you think. I understand that that's how you feel. And if you want to know more about phrases to disarm a narcissist, make sure to check out my video on phrases to disarm a narcissist, because there's lots more in there about that. And if you are so ready to beat the narcissist, give me a beat them in the comments. And the third way is that you just don't even miss them. Now at this point, they're out of your lives, and or maybe you're still trying to work them out of your life, but you don't miss them. You're actually glad that they're out of your life. You're actually starting to picture your life without them. You're starting to move on. You're starting to, the air is starting to feel cleaner. The skies are looking bluer. You're starting to feel way better about life in general. I mean, once you aren't under siege like that all the time, and you just feel like you're constantly under attack, you'll be surprised at how nice your life starts to feel. And if you're still working on that, Definitely check out my video on self-care to cope with narcissists, because I have a whole video on ways that you could actually start to not miss them and start to pivot your brain and start to not have that that wiring going on constantly anymore, because it can make you lose sleep. It can make you feel sick. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're thinking about it. You wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. So you need to come up with ways so that you get to this point, because you really have beat the narcissist when you do not miss them at all, when nothing they can say or do can affects you, and you actually even start to forget things about the narcissist. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she said that she had dealt with a horrible narcissist and got out of the relationship 8 years ago. And she said she was talking to somebody the other day and didn't even remember his name, and she was like, oh wow, that's really awesome. I didn't even remember his name. So how cool would that be if you could get to that point where you just don't even miss them at all?